Developing tonight, a temporary stalemate in a burgeoning trade war between the United States and two of its biggest trading partners. Today, the Trump administration agreed to a pause on new tariffs against Canada and Mexico for at least 30 days, following negotiations with the leaders of both countries. Thanks for joining us. I'm Preston Phillips.
And I'm Mary Num. Those tariffs were due to take effect tomorrow, causing a volatile reaction with the stock market and a lot of concern about the impact of our state economy.
We have team coverage tonight, including Michelle Esteban, with how a trade war could hurt the local wine industry.
But we start with senior reporter Chris Daniels. And Chris, there's still a lot of concern about what's going to happen.
Yeah, Mary, Canada is Washington State's biggest trade partner by far, and any sort of tariff on imports or exports would have a broad impact. If anyone has a bird's eye view of a tariff impact on Washington State, it might be Ryan Calkins.
We've picked a fight with our best friend.
The Port of Seattle commissioner says an economic fight threatens a $29 billion a year state trade partnership with our northern neighbors.
A trade war is going to hurt us more than anybody else.
And the ripple effect is significant.
If you think of the United States as a large grocery store, right? And if our prices go up, if they don't like the quality of goods and services at the price point it's at, there's plenty of other grocery stores around the world that they can go shop at.
Otto Punke of the Washington Council on International Trade says apple growers are still recovering from tariffs in President Trump's first term.
It's not like you can just bring apple orchards back online after a complete drop in business like that. You know, the world markets will change.
On the farm, we have absolutely no ability here to absorb increased costs.
Andy Juris is a fourth-generation wheat farmer in Klickitat County. 90% of the state's fertilizer comes from Alberta and Saskatchewan.
Anytime that there's tariffs in the trade space for farmers, it's a tough deal.
It's sort of like bringing a machete into a surgical room instead of a scalpel. These blunt instrument tariffs don't do anyone any good.
For now, Calkins will take a breath, even if rough waters may still be ahead. Another impact, according to Calkins, would be the price of timber. According to state records, Washington State received more than $1 billion of wood imports from Canada in 2023. Calkins says the new tariffs, if they were to go in effect, would drive up the cost of housing in an already expensive market. That's the story for now. Live on the Seattle waterfront, I'm Chris Daniels, KOMO News.
I'm Chris Wynn at the live desk, and developing now with President Trump putting those tariffs on hold for a month. Canada's most populous province is now backing down on its own threats to retaliate against the U.S. Both Ontario and British Columbia had previously directed its liquor boards to remove American alcohol from store shelves. But Ontario Premier Doug Ford warned that if the U.S. decides to carry out its tariffs later, Ontario will not hesitate to remove American products or ban American companies from provincial procurement. The state of Kentucky keeping a close eye on all of this as well. Governor Andy Beshear says the tariffs could have a major impact on the state's bourbon industry, which accounts for $9 billion in economic impact. Meanwhile, President Trump over the weekend once again calling for Canada to become America's 51st state.
President Trump's 30-day extension on tariffs is a huge relief to the Washington wine industry. Industry leaders say if Canada followed through on retaliatory tariffs, it would be a big blow since Canada is our largest export market. KOMO's Michelle Esteban joins us live tonight from the heart of Woodinville's wine country with more. Michelle?
Well, hi there. One of the biggest players right here, the Chateau Saint Michelle. I can tell you that Washington wines are exported to 72 different countries, but the largest export market is Canada. When it comes to that, they are vital to raising a glass to the Washington wine industry. Happy Monday. Mark Ryan's tasting room in Woodinville, calm and copacetic, but behind the scenes at wineries across the state, from the Chateau Saint Michelle to the Washington State Wine Commission, a new kind of bottle shock.
It's disheartening, but I do know that we will work our way through it, and we really feel that wine should not be part of these retaliatory tariffs.
And yet, here sits the Washington wine industry in the middle of a so-called trade war. Trump announced 25% tariffs on Canada. Canada fired back with a 25% retaliatory tariff on U.S. exports, including wine.
What it means is that we'll need to find a home for those those wines in another market.
But then comes this 11th hour announcement by President Trump to pause the proposed tariffs for 30 days after Canada agreed to shore up the U.S. northern border.
My reaction is that is terrific news, and I think we have 30 days to really work through this.
But she knows it's a pause, not a guarantee of no tariffs. If this tariff sticks, what are you worried about?
Well, it's our top export market, and that is, it's worth about $11 million a year to our Washington wine industry.
Washington state exports to 72 countries. Canada, its largest export market, with 40 wineries, including Chateau Ste. Michelle, that are actively exporting to Canada. What has an impact on those wine producers has an impact downstream on customers.
If you have a retaliatory tariff on top of that, that's eventually going to go through to the supply chain and be passed on to the consumer.
Now, Kelly says the 30-day extension is extremely beneficial. It's helpful because they can work with their partners, they can continue to communicate with Canada, and they can also communicate with their wineries in the state, which, by the way, there are 1,100 of them. But more than anything, she hopes this isn't just a pause, but puts an end to tariff talks. Reporting live in Woodinville, I'm Michelle Esteban, KOMO News.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Whether the tariffs take effect tomorrow or a month from now, many economists agree it will likely translate into higher prices for you, the consumer. You can expect to pay more for things like cars and car parts, lumber, and fresh produce like avocados. The Tax Foundation estimates the average household can expect to pay about $830 more this year. A different group, the Peterson Institute, predicts an additional $2,600 per year in spending per household. In a post on Truth Social over the weekend, President Trump acknowledged Americans could feel some pain, but said the end result would be worth it.
The U.S. stock market's had a roller coaster day reacting to the latest tariff news. The Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 all finished lower, but managed to mostly erase the steep drop-off when the markets opened. The Dow plunged more than 600 points initially. It ultimately ended the day with a loss of 122 points. Time to scan the QR code on your screen and vote in our KOMO Pulse poll. Tonight we're asking, are you worried about higher prices due to tariffs? Live results show 54% saying yes, 46% say no. If you want to vote but don't have your phone, just look for the poll on our website, KOMOnews.com.